Welcome to This Explainer. We're going on a rapid-fire journey today through the life of the ancient world's absolute most legendary conqueror. In just about 3 minutes, we are going to cover the entire story and the massive, literally world-changing achievements of Alexander the Great. Let's jump right in.
0. That is the exact number of battles Alexander lost in his entire life. Think about that for a second. An absolutely perfect winning streak. And we're about to explore exactly how he pulled that off. The young king, a prodigy in the making. So the story starts in Macedonia. Alexander was born in 356 BCE to King Philip II, who was actually a brilliant military reformer himself. But Philip didn't just teach his kid warfare. He actually hired the legendary philosopher Aristotle to educate young Alexander in science, medicine, literature, and philosophy. Talk about a powerhouse tutor, right?
My son, seek a kingdom worthy of yourself. Macedonia is too small for you. This quote brilliantly illustrates just how early his genius showed up. This was actually his dad's reaction when a young Alexander tamed a supposedly unrideable horse, Bucephalus. And he did it just by noticing the frightened animal was terrified of its own shadow. So he calmly turned it toward the sun. Problem solved.
But by 336 BCE, he was put to the ultimate test. His father is suddenly assassinated, and a 20-year-old Alexander is thrust right onto the throne. Now, he acted swiftly and, frankly, ruthlessly. He eliminated his rivals, he crushed Greek rebellions, and he completely destroyed the city of Thebes just to ensure total submission, basically making sure there was absolutely no doubt who was in charge now.
Conquering the Persian Empire, the unstoppable force. With his homeland completely secure, he set his sights on the ultimate prize. We're talking about the massive Achaemenid Empire, ruled by Darius III. Alexander crossed the Hellespont with a highly trained force of 40,000 soldiers and 5,000 cavalry to take on what was, at the time, an absolute superpower.
Now, what's truly staggering here is the sheer speed of this conquest. Look at this unprecedented blitz. He shattered Persian resistance in just 4 years. He was personally leading cavalry charges across rivers at Granicus. He literally built a massive stone causeway right into the sea to conquer the island city of Tyre. He was welcomed and crowned pharaoh in Egypt, and he just repeatedly outmaneuvered King Darius all the way to his ultimate victory at Gaugamela.
And, along the way, he encountered the legendary Gordian knot. Local myths said whoever untied this incredibly complex knot would rule Asia. So the crucial point is how Alexander actually solved this. He didn't even try to untie it. He simply pulled out his sword and sliced the whole thing in half. Boom! It became a lasting symbol for solving difficult problems through bold, direct action.
The edge of the world, pushing the limits. You'd think he'd take a break, right? Nope. After burning the Persian ceremonial capital of Persepolis and seeing Darius murdered by a rival, Alexander just kept going. He pushed his exhausted men into the grueling mountains of Central Asia, fighting guerrilla warfare, and marched all the way across the Hindu Kush directly into India.
And that leads us to the Battle of the Hydaspes in 326 BCE. After secretly crossing a flooded river in the dead of night, he defeated the Indian king Porus and his frankly terrifying war elephants. When Porus was finally captured, Alexander asked him this famous question: "How should I treat you?"
The defeated Porus simply replied, "Like a king." Deeply impressed by this incredibly bold response, Alexander respected his talented opponent so much that he actually restored Porus to his throne. He even granted him additional territory, which is pretty wild when you think about it.
But unfortunately, this marked the absolute limit of his eastern expansion. His soldiers were exhausted, and they absolutely refused to cross the Ganges River. So, very reluctantly, Alexander agreed to return. But the journey back, it was a total disaster. It forced a tragic march through the brutal Gedrosian Desert, where thousands of his men died of extreme heat, starvation, and thirst.
An undying legacy, the cost of conquest. Alexander finally made it back to Babylon with these massive, sweeping plans to expand trade, build fleets, and integrate his new multicultural empire. But then, in June of 323 BCE, he suddenly fell ill after a banquet and died. He was just 32 years old. Still, his monumental legacy is completely undeniable. Look at this. In just 13 years on the throne, he racked up massive achievements. He created a 5,000-kilometer empire, ended the centuries-old Persian Empire, founded over 20 cities like Alexandria, and initiated the Hellenistic Age, spreading Greek culture across 3 entire continents. His revolutionary military strategies would go on to inspire heavyweights from Hannibal to Julius Caesar and even Napoleon.
We're going to end this explainer with a final, lingering thought. What is the ultimate cost of conquering the world if you leave no clear heir to rule it? Because he left no adult successor, his top generals immediately tore his massive empire apart into competing kingdoms. It really leaves us to wonder, was the rapid fragmentation of his empire the inevitable price of flying just a little too close to the sun?